Welcome back everyone to the Aprilia RS 660. Now I've just shot my initial impressions review of this motorcycle and I've noticed that the sleeve, the handlebar sleeve here, the rubber is fraying, and this is, well, pretty much a new bike. This is a demo bike though, so that is something to keep in mind, that, you know, these things may happen on demo bikes, but just wanted to point that out because this is a fairly new bike and we're getting issues like this from a motorcycle that doesn't have a lot of mileage on it. So, well, let me know in the comment section if this is something that you've experienced on your own Aprilia or RS 660. But anyway, so, you know, I always try to come up with a second video to do on one of these bikes to try and make the most of the experience. And the one thing I keep asking myself is, well, how streetable is this bike, you know? Because I'm a street rider through and through. So is something like this going to be over the top for street riding? Can I ride this for long periods of time? Can I do kind of touring on it and things like that? Well, let's jump on and let's find out, shall we? Because this is a real sporty experience, to say the least. The seat height is very tall as well. And you are, even though I don't feel all that cramped in the seat, it is an aggressive riding position, as you'd expect. But normally you'd have an inline 4 rather than a parallel twin engine. But this is honestly one of those motorcycles that I actually do feel is quite streetable, because you've got a load of torque down in the kind of bottom end of the rev range, which is absolutely perfect for street riding. You don't want all of that power just all in the top end. And the fact that you can have a lot of fun, a lot of innocent fun, shall we say, on this bike without having to worry so much about what speed you're doing. I think that is also one of the things that adds to the streetable kind of elements of this bike. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, once you start going through the gears and stuff, yeah, you're going to have to be careful, but first, second gear, it's all right. It is all right. And it kind of has a bit of a naked kind of vibe, this bike, in some ways, where even though it's got a really aggressive, I say really, it's got a pretty aggressive riding position, it's, because of the engine and the vibration and things like that, it does feel like more of a naked, it just feels like, you know what I mean? It feels a bit more like a muscle bike, in a way. But honestly, like, I think this bike is actually quite streetable for a sporty / super sport motorcycle. I do think this is actually quite a reasonable compromise between something like an inline 4 or a V4 in some of those super sports that you get that are kind of like at the 1000cc class, and something that is, I don't know, something like a 125 all the way down there. It's actually a really good in-between bike, where if you really wanted to, yeah, you can street this bike, but you could also easily track day, I think. I think you'd have a lot of fun track day in this bike. I really do. Because it does feel like a really punchy engine. It has a lot of punch, which I really wasn't expecting out of a bike like this. But yeah, true to its name, parallel twin has a lot of punch. But the thing about this bike is that, yeah, it has that low end punch which you can enjoy kind of every day, even at slow speeds, but the fact it does have that top end horsepower as well to boot really does add to the charm of this bike. I'm really pleased with it, you know. I think this is a really good experience overall for street riding. I think this is a really good experience. You will, over time, I think you will start getting little aches and pains, and your hands might start going dead and things like that if you're riding it for too long. But I don't know, I think riding this bike, you should be able to ride this bike for well over an hour, I think, straight, before you start feeling any major pins and needles. I mean, during our ride review, I was riding it for half an hour straight, and yeah, my right wrist did start to get a little bit sleepy. So it will happen. That is kind of the nature of these bikes, though. So just go into it knowing that this is an aggressive riding position ergonomically. You are getting a lot of vibrations coming through this bike, and so you are going to get pins and needles every once in a while if you're not careful, of course. I mean, you guys know me. You know, I like to take my hand off the handlebar and things like that to give my hand a bit of a rest. I suppose you could do it this way as well, considering this bike has got cruise control. I mean, you really do have that option. And the fact that it's incredibly lightweight as well, and the clutch is very light, means that in start-stop traffic, should I say, this thing is good as well. It should feel decent enough to ride, rather than, I mean, you do get kind of older super sports and they do have quite heavy clutches and things like that. So riding those in start-stop traffic, I don't think I'd recommend, but actually riding something like this, I think is certainly doable. But the fact that I've had quite a lot of fun on this bike, and I really wasn't expecting to have a lot of fun on this bike. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest with you. But the fact that I'm able to enjoy this motorcycle thoroughly, I'm able to enjoy this bike a lot on everyday kind of streets, well, it says a lot about it, I think, for its streetability. I don't think you're going to be doing any massively long tours with this bike, though. I think that's... It's not out the question entirely, but you may struggle doing rides that are longer than maybe 2 hours. If you ride for 2 hours straight, you may struggle, I think. A spider. Hanging on for dear life. But yeah, things like filtering and getting through traffic is really straightforward. And I tell you what, this bike, it does fill you with a lot of confidence in the bends. It seems really planted. So you can have loads of fun in the twisties. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get a bike and you lean it over a little bit and it feels a little bit, I don't know, like squirrely. I don't know how else to kind of describe it, but this bike feels very good in the bends. Of course, because it's incredibly light as well. I mean, 183 kilograms wet, I think it is. It's nothing on a bike with this much horsepower, this much torque. It handles like a dream, I think. It handles really damn well. I honestly, I think I've been surprised in more ways than one. And you know, I think I'm starting to understand why people like the Italian bikes. Now I know this isn't a V4, right? This is, or a V2 even, which is what Aprilia and Ducati are known for. But I don't think you should write off this bike either, to be honest with you. Throttle response is very good, but you do get a little bit more kind of, I don't know, like open throttle, I think is the right word, when you're giving it just a little bit. Sometimes it can feel like a lot of throttle, but that's something you get used to, you know, it's not unmanageable, but I don't know, I think there's a lot going for this bike in terms of its streetability. There's a lot going for this bike. It's not over the top like you could argue with Panigale or RSV. This is very manageable. This is an advanced level motorcycle though. It feels closer to a 600cc inline 4. than a parallel twin 650. It shares more in common with that kind of bike. Yeah, the bus is going through. Fair play. Oh, quick shifter, I love it. Absolutely love it. It is perfect on these kinds of bikes. The thing is as well, I mean, the power of this bike, I don't think you're going to have any trouble keeping up with your mates and things like that. If that's something that worries you, you're not going to have any worries on this whatsoever, alright? Honestly, this thing has got more than enough power to keep up with your mates. Seriously. It's a lot of fun. And I think that's the main thing, isn't it? Despite the fact that it's got all these vibrations coming through the bike, which is probably the thing that brings this bike down the most, it more than makes up for it with the amount of fun that you can have on it. Seriously good. Honestly, I don't know how else to describe it. This is a very, very good motorcycle. Funny, it doesn't it doesn't feel like it should have as much headroom as it does. This is a seriously quick bike for the displacement. Seriously quick. I don't know, everyone. As I kind of mentioned, I didn't really know what to expect when I got on this bike for the first time, but honestly I have very, very positive feelings around this bike. And if you are kind of leaning more towards the Italian riding experience, then something like this, honestly, I think it's a really good purchase. I can't speak to the reliability of these kinds of bikes, unfortunately, because, well, we simply don't know how these bikes would perform over 2 or 3 years or so. But in terms of the riding experience itself, very good. Very positive, I think, in a lot of ways. But as always, definitely go and do your research, go and test ride one of these bikes for yourselves if you can, if you have one in your local area, and then make up your own minds. But I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially if you put it in the individual rider mode as well, where it doesn't have traction control in. I think it might have traction control on, but it doesn't have the wheelie control, and it really does kind of open this bike up a lot more. You can have a lot more fun without the wheelie control, and you really do get to feel this bike's performance as it was meant to be experienced. Honestly, guys, fantastic motorcycle, and I think from a riding experience point of view, I heavily recommend it. But you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section. As always, leave that like, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos and our reviews on Italian made motorcycles. I look forward to having a lot more of these in future on the channel. But leave that like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you all in the next video. Everyone take care, ride safe.